Good morning, everyone. Coming to you from Sydney. It's good to be back. And it's been a while. It feels like a long, long time since we've had one of our live versions of this. So just checking that everyone can hear me. Just let me know if you've got any problems and whether you can hear this session. Just want to make sure before we get going that this is all working out for you. Just going to refresh the page now so that, let me have a look here. Just going to check that this link is working properly, because it seems like it's a bit glitchy here. Update. And we should be getting going soon. I just want to make sure that this is all working properly for you. For some reason, it doesn't seem to be refreshing. Oh, I see what's happening. Yes, Bronwyn, you got me. Okay, cool. I can see what's happening. There's another link to the page above. So I'm just going to edit that and get that out of the way so that you can see just the proper screen. Looks like, okay, I see where it is. It's there. We'll be with you in 1 second. We'll just clean this up so that it's all good. Okay, we should be right now. I had the old page was still up there, the old screen. So looking forward to getting going with this session. Those people coming in for the recording, watching this, welcome. Today we're going to look at transcendence and why it's an important experience to be able to dive into that state of the unbounded. I actually was just doing a questionnaire for a magazine that wanted some questions on meditation, and one of the questions they're asking is, what are some of the benefits of meditating? And we talk a lot about the benefits of meditating in that it helps us sleep better, it helps us remove stress, it helps us, be less reactive in life. We also want to incorporate, and what I feel compelled to do is incorporate a lot more awareness around what I call the fourth dimension. And this is this state of unboundedness, this state of being. And I think we're going to start hearing a lot more about being coming into our daily language, things like non-duality, because a lot more people are waking up to this fundamental nature of our truth, the very essence of our being, the very essence of our reality. And one thing that's sort of happening in the world is we're reaching this sort of critical point of exhausting our search for fulfillment in places where it doesn't exist. I had a coaching client who's a billionaire, just recently sold his company for $1.5 billion. And he has an amazing life, obviously lots of wealth, lives in a beachside suburb, has wonderful family life. Everything would be perfect, yet he is in a dark night of the soul, very stressed and almost angry, he said. I don't know why, but I feel angry. And my perception of this is that he's angry, and I've seen this many times before with very wealthy people that come to me after seemingly ticking all the boxes that we're meant to tick in life. And they get to a point where, gosh, I've seemingly got everything I could possibly imagine, and yet I'm still finding a sense of lack. I'm still finding that there's something not quite there. And this is because they have yet to experience the essential nature. They have yet to find the fundamental truth of where fulfillment exists. It doesn't exist in acquisition. It doesn't exist in forms and phenomenon. It's actually not possible for any of us to reach that state of fulfillment, to reach that state of enlightenment, to reach that state of, yes, I feel whole and I feel entire, through those experiences of getting things or having things or experiencing, having experiences in life. This only comes through the transcendent of the world of form and duality, and that is the subject and object world. And that's where I call this the fourth dimension. The three dimensions prior to that, first dimension is physical form, second one is emotional form, third one is mental form, and our fourth one is our subtlest of all. And it's not a form, so I can't call it a form. It's a dimension, it's a layer of reality, it's an existence, but it's not a form. It doesn't have a boundary line to it. So your physical shape has a boundary line to it. Your mental shapes have boundary lines to it. Your emotional state has a boundary line to it. And you can tangibly quantify your physical, mental, and emotional states. I'm in this state today. I'm having this thought today. My body is in this shape today. With the fourth dimension, we can't actually quantify it. We can't put a boundary on it. We can't put a shape on it or a form. And it is a formlessness. It is the unboundedness. It is the timelessness. It is the permanence of all reality. And it's time now for us as a collective species to start to wake up to this nature, this essence, this fourth dimension, start to realize that it exists. And in this questionnaire, they're asking about, different styles of meditation, and they're all beneficial, but can they give you direct access to that state of being? We're going to explore being today. We're going to explore why we want to have access to that. And then we're going to meditate, and we're going to dip our mind in the field of formlessness. We're going to take our mind, which is the conduit for formlessness, from formlessness to form. That's what the mind's doing, is it's conduiting from formlessness to form. So through the mind, we cognize thoughts, and those thoughts become manifestations. And I was at a wonderful talk at a festival in LA just a few days ago, actually, listening to a physicist, and a very conscious physicist, and he was talking about how consciousness influences form. Consciousness influences matter. So what does that look like? Well, I just picked up my phone. So the matter was influenced by my consciousness that cognized the idea to pick up the phone. So that's a very gross level of looking at how consciousness influences matter. But then let's start delving a little bit deeper into that. This little iPhone cable here was an idea at some point. It was plucked out of the field of unlimited creative potential. And someone came up with an idea to design a little connector cable for the new iPhones to the old iPhone cables. And then they designed it, and then they manifested it. So the consciousness influenced this form, just as this wallet and this mouse were all cognized and became a form out of consciousness. And what starts to happen as we become more adept, more skilled, and more refined in the ability to understand, recognize, and play with this, is we eventually become great manifestors, creating from formlessness to form. And we talk a lot more about that in Zen Academy, how you become the creator and manifester. And there's a great book called Living with the Himalayan Masters by Swami Rama, about his autobiographical accounts of meeting incredible sages that had truly mastered that ability to manifest forms from formlessness, really understood and refined and become adept at the process of consciousness influencing matter, where they could manifest objects at will. A friend of mine actually is living and spending a lot of time with a great sage or Swami in India. His name's Ama. There's two Amas. This is a different Ama, which is the not the hugging Ama, which is the Indian lady. It's more of it's a divine incarnate, which is considered a balance of feminine and masculine. So there's kind of no gender to this Ama, and you can look them up. You can go and stay with Ama in the ashram. But they've seen remarkable instances time and time again where Ama was able to manifest forms out of formlessness, just making things appear and things like that. And that is someone getting a great skill and capability in playing around with matter manifesting out of consciousness. So we're all doing this on a daily basis. All of you are influencing matter from your state of consciousness. You chose the hairstyle that you have today, the clothes that you're wearing. You chose to attend this experience and watch this video. You chose the house that you're living in. You chose the job that you're working in. So you are influencing matter from your state of consciousness. And what we're doing is we're learning more and more how to refine that capability. And where we become more and more skilled at it is by being able to access that field of unmanifest and become much more skilled at the process of extracting from that unlimited potential out of the field of creativity, out of the field of pure consciousness, and start to create and manifest in the dense world of forms. So this is why it's really important we embrace transcendence. It's very difficult to play in that field like that if we don't have access to that state, that fourth dimension, that realm beyond the forms of mental, emotional, and physical. When we're stuck just in that limited framework of our mental, emotional, and physical state, I call them the vehicles, we're constantly living in a state of duality, which is an I. So that I'm purely defined by my I, which is my physical body and its needs, my emotional body, that is how I feel, and the mental body, which is what I think. Now, our thinking body is influenced by our feeling body. So we're thinking things to try and get feelings. And those feelings become very tangible, palpable. And what we're trying to do all the time is trying to find things that are going to make us feel good. And that's what motivates us into every action. It's why you all attended today, because you thought that this experience could potentially make you feel better. Otherwise, why would you be here? It's why we do everything. Every action is motivated by the sensation that we can get in our feeling body. Even our thoughts are motivated to stimulate some action in our feeling body. So that keeps us in this world of individualized form, which is the I. And we're very associated and identified by this I. We become very addicted to this I, and we really hold on tightly to this I. Now, meditation, particularly this style of meditation, allows us to transcend the I. So why do we want to transcend the I? Why do we want to go beyond the I? Why do we want to go beyond the limitations of physical, mental, and emotional bodies? And it's because in that state, we surrender I-ness. We surrender I-ness. There's no longer I. And some of the challenges I find, and you might find this a challenge as well with your meditation, is the reluctance to transcend. We're going to explore, firstly, we're looking at why we want to transcend, and we're going to look at why we have challenges transcending, why we struggle with the letting go. And that's because we're very addicted to not only the I, but we're addicted to the world that I plays in. That's the subjective world. And the reason why we're addicted to that world, which is the world outside of, what you're going to do today and what you had for dinner and, your money and your partner and your family and all of the world that stimulates you in some way, shape, or form, and your attention every single moment of the day is going out into that world of forms and phenomenon outside of you. And it's going in that direction to get some level of stimulation, get some level of dynamic, a disturbance of some sort, positive or negative. Why we want to transcend is because we want to free ourselves of the constant gripping effect that world has on us. And there's a multitude of reasons why we want to do that. We want to do that because we want to experience the unlimited, unbounded, and blissful state of our amness. So notice amness has no I. It's not I am, it's just am. There's just amness. If there's I am amness, then there's two things. There's the I and there's amness. But amness is just the oneness. There's no I, no individualization. And it's very important for us to be able to transcend. Hey, Tina, welcome. I think it's your first session. So it's very important that we transcend our I-ness in meditation so that we can experience the fullness of who we are, which is amness. Now, amness doesn't have a label. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a form. It doesn't have a shape to it. And I'm sure some of you would have had some experiences of transcendence, that is amness. That is when you have gone beyond, that's what transcend means, to go beyond. You've gone beyond the framework that you've identified yourself to be, physical, mental, and emotional state, and the storyline that has shaped your I-ness. There's a storyline, which is a history, a sequence of events from the moment you were born that shaped this identity, and it continues to morph and evolve and get molded. And I wouldn't even say evolve; it actually just changes along the way. And that's your I-ness that is constantly being pushed and pulled like a bit of plasticine that's constantly getting prodded and poked along the way, and it continually gets distorted and shaped by other factors pushing and pulling on it and prodding and poking it, like this plasticine is constantly changing shape. Now in amness, there's no shape to be influenced, there's no shape to be molded, there's no form that can be impressed upon. Amness is pure and it's untouchable. And that's why when we transcend, people go like, wow, where did I go? I don't know where I just went, but that was phenomenal. It's hard even for them to identify where they went because it didn't have a boundary line or a place they could name. And so amness is an unbounded experience, and it's always there. So it's the waves suddenly waking up to its reality that it's the ocean. Transcendence is a critical part of our full experience of life as we go from our 3 dimensions to our 4 dimensions, our fullness. Now, why do we struggle with transcendence? Because the greatest addiction we all have is our addiction to our I-ness. It's the one thing that we love and hold and cherish more than anything else is our identity. And the world around us that stimulates that identity, that influences that identity, the good things and the bad things that continually give the identity some sensation and some level of, oh, this is me, this is my I-ness. And so when we start to meditate, what's going to happen is we have this device called the mantra that is going to lure the mind deeper. It is going to lure the mind away from the stimulation of the subjective outer world, and is going to take the mind deeper into this state of formlessness. Now, as that happens, there's going to be a little bit of conflict that's going to play out. The first level of conflict that's going to play out is the mind finding, and the I-ness finding itself becoming inconsequential, if not even non-existent. And so it will do things to preserve its identity. It will do things to retain its essential nature, retain its identity. And so what it will do is it will start causing some levels of disturbance. It will start causing some level of distraction. It will start latching onto something back in the outer world that it can almost like cling on to before it drops into the dissolving experience of transcendence. And so you're going to have a little bit of resistance from the I, from the identity, from the personality, and it's going to start clinging on to things that it can get its teeth into. And you'll start to notice this when we go into our meditation soon, how much that I will sort of continually latch onto things, and how much stimulation it gets when it does latch on, even the smallest little thing. You know, oh, I've got to take the kids to basketball. Saturday morning, what are we doing today? And it's this little level of stimulation. It can be so subtle, yet so strong in its inability to enable transcendence. And so this is the conflict that will play out in our meditation. And the mantra is the vehicle, it's the device. We just use that as a very gentle, luring, calming, soothing, almost like by default, we're going to coerce the mind away from the stimulation of the outer world into the subtlety of transcendence. And we just keep coming back to the mantra. You'll start to notice this play as you get more and more refined in your meditation practice. Early on, we're just not as refined in our level of awareness. We're just kind of like, oh, that was a good meditation, that was a bad meditation. Oh, that was just really busy, I had lots of thoughts. Not really getting into the subtlety of that practice and looking at, why did you have a busy meditation? Why did you continually get distracted? Why did you continually move your attention to the outer world and your mind grip onto something that it can get its teeth and fingernails clawed into? Why did it do that? And that's because it gives it a sense of significance. It gives it as the identity a sense of, um, yeah, some level of palpable experience that makes it real and alive. In transcendence, it's completely dissolved and melted away, and the I has just doesn't exist there anymore. And now we're experiencing amness. And what will happen is the mantra is going to just gently lure us in there. Now, what will happen is as we go deeper and deeper, there's going to be this sort of transitional point again. The first transitional point is moving our attention inward instead of outward. And that's where the mantra comes in. You'll notice even by just putting your attention on that mantra and mantra only, so there's only mantra, and your mind is not thinking about other things. You just purely put all your awareness on the mantra, and you'll notice it's sort of like a sinking feeling, you feel like a dropping, things slowing down. It's very subtle. And as we move deeper and further away from the world of stimulation and thoughts and emotions, we're going to find this sort of sinking feeling and this sort of subtle relaxation that's happening, because now there's less stimulation in the mind, less stimulation in the body. We're starting to notice that things are getting quieter inside. And then what will happen is we've got the mantra still playing out, and you're getting a little bit abstract. There's kind of like some weird thoughts, and there's a bit of mantra there, and things are getting very, very subtle because you're getting closer and closer to the source of thought now. So you can't quite identify that there's thoughts, because you've gone from the very gross level of thoughts bubbling up on the surface and manifesting as a, when we say manifest, we say become real as a quantifiable thought. But that it came from an origin, and that thought came up from a very subtle space, the potential of thought. And the thought bubbles up, comes up from the bottom of the ocean, coming up, and eventually it pops on the surface of that thought. If we go back to its source, we're going back with the mantra, back, deeper. We're starting to notice that the thoughts are becoming very abstract and very almost unquantifiable, but there's still some level of mental activity. And it could be just the mantra, or it could be some thoughts and mantra, but things are getting much quieter, and you're getting closer to the source of thought. Now, at this point, we're just on the cusp. It's called ritam. It's the boundary line of form and formlessness. This is what they call om. The sound om is ritam. It's that boundary line between form and formlessness. And we're still in the world of forms because there's a mantra, but we're not really. We've lost our, might have lost our feeling in our hands or sensations of our body. We've gone beyond that. We're in the very, very subtlest levels of form at this point. We're just aware of some sort of weird thinking going on. And then the mantra will drop. And at that point, there's just now silence. We've gone to the point of thoughtlessness. We're in pure consciousness now. So we're awake, but now there's no longer a thought. Now we can kind of play around at this level here. So this is transcendence. We're now in transcendence, but we can sort of be bumping in and out of transcendence. We can sort of move subtly out of it, and there's some thoughts, maybe then we're back in it and then back out of it. And is that mantra there? I'm not sure. And then we're back into thoughtlessness, or we can just get pumped completely out of it and we can go back up to the surface where there's thought. So why do we get bumped out of it, back up to the surface where there's thought? And that's because in transcendence, the physiology has dropped into a very, very deep state of rest. And in a deep state of rest, the physiology now becomes activated in the purification process. And our body is starting to remove stresses. This is the conundrum that plays out in our meditation, that we have reached this profoundly deep state of rest in transcendence. And yet in a very short period of time, the beautiful, deep, nourishing space of restfulness that comes when the mind is still but awake has activated some clearing, and that clearing has stimulated some level of stress releasing, which has stimulated the body and brought us out of meditation. So now we've brought our mind back up to the surface where there's lots of thinking again, and we're back into I-ness. We're back into forms. We're back into duality. There's me and there's the world that I'm thinking about. And that was a real bummer because I was really enjoying that deep meditation. And now I'm back up on the surface and it's not as enjoyable. So again, we just repeat the process. We repeat the process, which is just putting our awareness back onto the mantra. Now, along the way, guys, please put some questions in. There's a bit of a delay the way this works with YouTube and the Google Play, Google Hangout, sorry. Me talking, and there's about, I think it's about a 1 to 2 minute delay. So while I'm talking, just please type in some questions. You might find that there's a bit of a delay for me answering those questions. That's just because of the technicality of the way this is set up. But by all means, put in some questions where you're at with your meditation, any struggles you're having with your meditation, any experiences that you wanted some questions around, the application of your meditation or what we're talking about into daily life. Any questions really, would take anything that comes today. So just put them up there and I'll be more than happy to reply to them. And we will meditate soon because I want to take you into that state and collectively meditate together and see if we can assist a deeper experience through a refinement of our meditation practice. Why we set up the Inner Sanctum and these ongoing, I guess, guidance sessions is because our practices tend to deteriorate. It's natural for our practice to deteriorate over time. And that's because it's a very subtle art. It's a very subtle practice. And we live in a very gross world. And there's this sort of almost like a bastardization of the meditation. It becomes very unrefined over time. And we can get fairly way off track with our meditation. We just start sitting down and finding that we're not really getting deep. We're not really getting anywhere. It's a bit frustrating. We're not really getting the sensations or the experience we would like to have. And then that's when people start dropping their meditation. And what we want to do is we want to be able to continue to refine the practice and come back to the subtlety of the meditation practice. It is a very subtle science. And these sessions are about helping you to retain that subtlety in your practice. Because if we treat it as a very gross experience, just sit down, close your eyes, start pumping out that mantra, saying it as loud as you can inside your head, pushing through the thoughts, then you're in that really gross world of forms and phenomenon, and you haven't been able to access that fourth dimension, that unbounded layer of reality. You haven't been able to become the ocean. And hey, Tina. It's good to have you on this call. It's great coming in from Perth. I think this is the first time we've had someone from Perth, so it's really good to have you here. Hopefully we'll be able to get over to Perth. I was going to come and do an urban retreat in July, but we just got so much on with this film and book launch that I was being a little bit optimistic. So we are wanting to get over there at some point. Also with Adelaide and Brisbane, we want to do some of these one-day retreats a lot more, but I think I need to make sure that I give this launch of the film and the book the attention that it deserves and not get distracted with that. So once that's all out the way, we'll be doing a lot of these retreats and workshops. I'm looking forward to getting on the road and coming and visit you all. What is the difference or the reasons for the different mantras? It's a really good question. And you know what, to be honest with you, I've seen talks done by very enlightened teachers of these Vedic traditions and still not really give clear explanation for the difference in mantras. They are obviously cognized in the Vedic tradition and the Bij mantras. So B-I-G-A, Bij. In Sanskrit, the A is silenced at the end of the word. So pranayam is pranayama, but we take the A off the end of it. And so a Bij mantra is the Vedic mantras that are used for transcending. They're the ones that we use in the Vedic or transcendental meditation lineage. And the way I was taught, so I'm just going to pass on purely matter of fact. I've known a lot of teachers skirt around the edges and give a lot of ambiguity around these mantras, and I've never understood why they're so funny about it. I actually went to a talk by a very, very recognized Vedic teacher that literally point blank lied in front of an audience of 400 people about the mantras, and I was very surprised at that. And I just think it's time we'd be really transparent about these mantras. He was saying these mantras are cognized by the teacher for that student and where that student's at in their life and what that student needs at that particular point in time, which is all baloney. The mantras are chosen based on age, and there's set age groups that get a particular mantra. And I guess it's like numerology and um, star signs and things like that. Now, the way I believe it to be is that those mantras do have specific effects. There's some mantras which aren't beach mantras that help you cook better, and some mantras that help you sleep better, and some mantras help you make more money. There's a guy out actually on Facebook at the moment doing a lot of Facebook ads, an Indian guy called the Pillai Center, Pillai. I'm sure if you just type that in Facebook, you'll find him. And he's just put out a mantra that's supposed to help you make more money, manifest more abundance. What's the mantra? I'm going to tell you now because it's going to be online. And he vocally, openly expresses the mantra. I think it was Brzee, Brzee. And basically the repetition of that is Brzee, 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 Brzee. Now, I don't know why that mantra helps you make more money. It's something I'm not completely aware of. So there's some level of, I guess there's some aspect of me not knowing enough about those mantras. We were taught that these are the mantras you give at these particular ages. Now, I think certain mantras, from what I'm seeing, is that they have a particular effect on the student. So the mantras are, for the 55 and plus age group, are more about sort of, because you're in a different sort of stage in your life at that point. And I think with those mantras, they're probably more about sort of settling down and almost like retirement. And then the mantras in the earlier ages of your life, in the sort of 20s, 30s, 40s, much more dynamic into getting you into a successful sort of state and being proactive in the world. And certainly the mantra, I was given when I was in my sort of late 20s was one that I found became a bit of a doer. And so that might be the difference with the mantras, Tina, and it's probably worthy of doing further exploration. I kind of wish when I was doing teacher training, I asked more of those questions. Young kids get a very short little mantra from the age of 6 onwards. And I think that's, we were told that for the children, they were meant to say that mantra with their eyes open while they were walking around in a hall or in a line or something like that. So they wouldn't be sort of going into transcendence because it was too young for them. Once they get to, I think, 11 or 12, then they could start doing the mantra with their eyes closed. But, I've had children at a young age doing mantras with their eyes closed, and it was not a problem. And so, yeah, I wish I could give you more clarity around that. It's a really good question. And I think it does warrant a little bit more research. But that's all I had from my teacher training and what I've had from the Vedic meditation movement. Some people say some really ambiguous things about those mantras. And yeah, a lot of it was a little bit of baloney, to be honest with you. So with our online program, we just used the one mantra. And we weren't sure at first how that was going to go. But what we found was we had thousands and thousands of testimonials of people's lives that were changing for the better as a result of that. So we started realizing that there is refinement and little nuances in those mantras, but ultimately we found that just simply one of those mantras had a profound effect on people's lives for the better. And that was great. So we just went with that and kept using that, and it seemed to work incredibly well. And I found it quite interesting that this very recognized and revered Indian sage is putting out this mantra now online in online programs. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that come out, where people are kind of transcending some of the dogma, some of the ancient traditions, and just going, well, look, there's an effective technique. Let's just get this out to the world. And yeah, let's start changing people's lives at a bigger level. I went to a workshop a while ago where someone was teaching a 60,000-year-old yoga practice. And it was cumbersome, it was arduous, it went for like 4 hours, and it really wasn't very efficient at all. And they asked me afterwards, I think there's a natural evolution in things becoming more efficient. And, you can do a 30-minute yoga class on Yoga Glow online, and it's amazing. It can really change how you feel, it can change your body, and it can be very, very effective. And there's probably a reason why a 60,000-year-old yoga practice, these guys were really trying to revive this 60,000-year-old yoga practice. I'm like, it's simply not efficient. It was really inefficient, and it was probably efficient 60,000 years ago in India. Um, but there's much more efficient ways to getting to that goal of what you wanted to enact. And I think it was a kind of glamorous sort of idea to revive something that really had just become refined effectively to a much more efficient way of doing things. And that's what's happening with meditation as well. We're seeing a refinement of the techniques. That's why we've got Buddhist meditations on Headspace, Vedic meditations through our Fast Deeper Bliss program. And, we're starting to see an evolution in the techniques and using technology to do that, to bring these out to the world. Bronwyn, how are you? Any questions around your practice? How's your meditation going? Love to hear from you. And Tina, how often are you getting to meditate? I know you got kids and things. I mean, are you still able to get to a daily transcendent experience? And how often would you say that you'd be dropping into transcendence? And we don't want to get attached to the transcendent experience, because we know that we're not going to get transcending every day. There's some days I transcend very, very deeply, and other days it's just skimming along the surface in lots of thoughts. So we don't get attached to the outcome. Someone in that interview that I was going through this morning asked me, explain what a good meditation is, and it's like, that's not what it's about. There's no good and bad meditations. There's deep and shallow, but even the shallow meditations are very good. They're very beneficial, and they're going to have a lot of positive effects on your life. Even though we can have lots of thoughts and it doesn't feel like we've got a lot out of that meditation, it's still going to be beneficial. Just to sit in a chair, close our eyes, and repeat that sound over and over again is going to have profound effects on your mind and body. And that in itself is the practice, just simply turning up. That is our practice, to simply turn up, find the time to close our eyes and to do our meditation. And we're going to find that the more we do that on a regular basis, twice a day, even if you can 3 times a day, particularly with the level of stimulation that we've got in our world, you're going to find that you're going to get more and more autonomous with your state. You're going to have more and more authority in who you are, and less effect by the outer world, because you're constantly being hijacked. Something someone said, your work, the weather, something is going to hijack your state, and it's going to disturb or ruffle your feathers. And so your state of unbounded, of pure consciousness, of being in a state of unconditional lovingness and gentleness, has been disturbed and hijacked by the outer world. And the more we do our practice, the more we're going to stabilize our own state, our autonomic state. Twice a day on weekends, fantastic. Well, that's great. That's really good. Daily is phenomenal. There's a lot of people aren't getting to daily meditation, so getting at least once in a day is great. So what we might do is we might meditate together and dive into the ocean of bliss, dive into the transcendent experience. I'm going to take you into that so that we can see if we can refine our meditation practice. I'm just going to turn this heater down. It's getting a little bit warm in here. One sec. What's the benefit of mantra meditations versus guided meditations? Such a good question. It's actually exactly the question I was asked today in this questionnaire that I was filling in for this magazine. Guided meditations, the point of a guided meditation is to be guided, to be in duality. That's the voice or the person or the device that's guiding you, versus and I wouldn't say mantra meditation, because there's mantra meditations and there's transcending meditation. So let's just look at mantra meditation versus transcending meditation. Mantra meditation is where we'll have japa beads. I don't have mine on today. The japa beads, so that's the beads that you'll see with the necklace with the little beads on them. There'll be 108 beads in the japa beads. And sometimes we have them on a little smaller one that people have on their finger. It's a ring of, I think they're 10 little beads, like rosary beads. And so mantra meditation is where we say the mantra and we'll count the japa bead. Not count, but we'll move along the japa bead. So we would do Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah Shiva. We can do it with our eyes open or our eyes closed. But the point of mantra meditation is to not actually transcend. It's not a transcending meditation. And we won't use a bij mantra that is a mantra that takes us into transcendence. We'll use a mantra that's designed for ongoing repetition. There was one wonderful Hindu sage that I met in India, and for 10 years he sat day and night saying Narayana. So Narayana, Narayana. Narayana is God. And he would just sit there literally all day long with his japa beads. Narayana, 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 literally for hours on end to invoke and become one with God. Now, what we're doing here with mantra, with transcending meditation, we're fast tracking the process. It's really the one why I teach it and why I practice it is because it was a fast track to transcendence, to God. In transcendence, we become one with God. We become one with the unbounded. And this is one of the benefits of transcending meditation versus mantra meditation. Now, mantra meditation is still beautiful. A rosary is a mantra meditation. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed. We used to do the rosary every night and I used to love it as a kid. There was something very meditative in it where everything just stops. We all sit or kneel in our room, in our lounge room after dinner, and we would all do the rosary together. And it was a very beautiful meditative experience. But what we're doing with transcending meditation is we're going beyond and we're letting go of the meditation itself. The meditation doesn't exist in transcendence. A lot of people get very attached to meditation techniques, but really what we want to be really glorifying is where we end up, which is in pure consciousness. So there's no meditation when we're in transcendence, and that's because we've transcended the practice itself. The technique was just the device or the vehicle to get us there. Now, guided meditations are a little bit different because they're really not taking you into that space. You're not there to transcend the guidance. You're actually there to be in with the guidance all the way through. Manifesting money, manifesting a partner, manifesting something being guided through your chakras. You're actually there to engage with that guidance. And so you're in duality, you're in form, you're in the sense of identity. You haven't actually gone beyond your own personal experience. You're in your personal experience. You're just being influenced to move your attention in a different location. That's really what's happening, is that you're being influenced by the device or the person that's guiding you to be in a different location, a different state of awareness. So that's what I would say would be the difference there. Simply one allows you to transcend, one doesn't. I think that's the main thing. Hi, Tom. I had a few issues with the chat. I'm still meditating. Okay. Hope it's working all right now. I got your message here. I'm still meditating twice a day, sometimes only once on the weekend. I haven't been going very deep, so this is information has been very helpful. Awesome. Well, hopefully today we'll see how we go. Morning meditations, it's the morning for, I know everyone on the call because from Australia, but those coming in from overseas, I think Gavin was from overseas, he's left the call. But the evening meditations are much deeper. I had a flight back from America yesterday and I had a long day, so I was trying to push through and reset my body clock. And I meditated late in the sort of afternoon, early evening. And my body was getting very tired at that point. It was getting quite late in America. It was sort of getting around 10, 11 o'clock at night in America, which my body clock was still set on. And so that meditation was profoundly deep for quite a long period of time. And that's because it was in this willingness to surrender. It was really ready to just, it had no resistance. The mind was not full of energy and life and wanting to just play and explore the world. And the mind was like, you know what, we're done. Let's just have some time out. We're exhausted. And the mind let go very easily and dropped in very, very quickly. So in the morning, it's going to be a bit different. We'll see how we go this morning. We'll check in with you after the session. So let's get ourselves comfortable. I think my battery's going to run out. So I'm just going to change these plugs. Making yourselves comfortable so that you are free for a 20-minute meditation. let's close our eyes. We're just going to sit in the chair comfortably. And what I want us to do when we start to repeat the mantra in a moment is just be very observant of the different sensations in the body when there's just mantra and no other thoughts. And then notice if the mind will go and look to grip onto something that will give a little bit more disturbance in the body, a little bit more reaction. Your mind will drift off the mantra quite quickly, will jump onto something that will give a little bit more disturbance in the body. Then I want us to come back to the mantra and notice the de-excitation that happens there. A little bit of toing and froing as we go back to mantra and back to thinking. This will play out for a little bit. Just keep coming back to the mantra and notice the de-excitation. I want us to really surrender any attachment to the outer world. We're going to completely forego any inquiry into the outer world. Let's just surrender inward. The mantra is going to lure the mind inward, lure our attention inward away from stimulation. So start the mantra now. Repeating it effortlessly inside your head is a very gentle idea. And exploring and then relishing the inward journey into the quiet. There is nothing outside of you that can bring you peace. So let it all go. And allow your attention to drift inward into the inner world, into the inner space, forgoing those very short little worldly pleasures that we get addicted to. So we want to bask in the glory of our unboundedness. You can continue on repeating the mantra, and I'll let you know when to open the eyes. So just letting go of the mantra, keeping the eyes closed. Just going to sit just for a few moments. We went a little bit longer this time because you're advanced meditators. So now in this clear space, we just observe the silence. No mantra, just sitting and observing. Is there any windows of no thought? Is there any windows of just presence? No story, no expectation, no hope. Just simple reality of presence. You get an awareness of that existence there behind all the noise. This is being. There's no I in it. Now we just finish off with a little bit of lovingness in our heart. Bring our awareness into the central vortex of our heart, right behind the chest plate. Feeling an emanation of light and love from that centerpiece. Just knowing that this is us, a walking daily embodiment of love and light. Keeping it really simple. Taking all the complexity out of life. And then when you're ready, you can slowly open the eyes. All right, we went a little bit longer that time. Not too much, just a little bit. Bronnie's question was, is 20 minutes the max, or should you go on longer if you're deep? Yeah, definitely go on longer. You can go even up to 2 hours, 1 hour. It's really nice to explore that real immersion into transcendence, if that's what's happening. And the longer we're in there, the more we stabilize it. So yeah, if you found yourself going deep, you can definitely stay longer. It's a very healthy practice to have. How did you go, Tina Bronwyn? Love to know what your meditations were like in that session. Was it deeper? Certainly was for me. Could be a bit of fatigue still there, but it could also be a communion that's happening with you. So I would love to hear from you how your experiences went this morning. Now, I know there's a bit of a lag, so there'll be a bit of time delay. So what's happening? We have our Bali retreat in May next year. That's probably going to be the first longer retreat. There's nothing going to be happening until then, as far as more than a one-dayer. But Bali is starting to fill up, and that's in May. I'll put the link right here in this chat right now, and that way you can start to contemplate that as a possibility. It is a really profound retreat experience. Now, we are in the process of exploring, wait for a drum roll, a Greece retreat in September. So we've got Bali in May. We're looking at potentially a Greece retreat in September. We've found the most incredible location. And then we're going to have Byron Bay in November. So 3 6-day retreats next year, which I'm really excited about. Byron Bay is bumped to a 6-day retreat, partly because the venue wanted us to do, wouldn't let us do a 4-day retreat. It was too short for them. They wouldn't have taken us. And partly because it's a great experience to go a bit longer. And we had people inquiring if we could do a longer retreat in Byron. So that's what we're doing, just as a response to some inquiry there. There'll be a few one-day retreats in amongst all of that. But the 6-day retreat's looking like Bali, Byron, and Greece, fingers crossed if that happens, which would be really fun. So I'm just going to put this in the chat now. Where are you all here? Okay. Okay, so Bronwyn said, it's really nice meditation, quite deep. Usually in group settings, the birds got noisy towards the end and woke me up. Wonderful to hear. So we're going to wrap it up now. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Tina said, yes, I felt it was quite deep. I almost could feel the energy of the group. Wonderful. Yeah, look, that's the thing I was feeling as well. We've started to notice more in these group meditations online that there's a sort of transcendence of locality. We're kind of unifying at a subtle level. Now, the beauty of all of this is that there is no locality, there is no boundary when it gets to the subtlest level of reality. So really, I think that shouldn't impede our ability to connect, and I think that's what's happening here, which is really exciting. And I'm excited to sort of continue to explore that, how we can collectively unify and have these dynamic group meditation experiences, regardless of where people are at. Obviously, being in person is always a really nice experience as well, because we can hug them. So hopefully we get to see you guys soon. That'd be great. We do have Monday night, Monday night meditation. The venue has fallen through, so I'm trying to find another venue. Obviously, Tina won't be able to make it, but we could do it on Zoom and invite people into that Monday night. So we'll see. I'll be in touch with you about that soon. We'll see how we go. Have a wonderful weekend. Really great to spend that time with you. And yeah, look forward to connecting in very shortly. Lots of love. See you soon.